Hey there, riddle enthusiasts. Ready to dive into some riddles today? We've got a bunch, especially for kids, but you know what? I bet they'll be fun for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Riddles are for everyone. It's amazing how these simple puzzles, they really make you think.
They do. Sometimes it's the most obvious answer, and you just completely overlook it. You ready to get started?
I'm ready. Hit me with your best riddle.
Okay, here's the first one. What has to be broken before you can use it? This makes me think of things that, we carefully unwrap or peel. Could it be a present?
Well, a present's definitely better unwrapped, but that's not quite what we're looking for here. Think about something that requires a bit more force to get to what makes it useful.
Okay. What about a brand new smartphone? You've got to break through all that packaging before you can get to the good stuff.
You're getting closer, at least in terms of needing to break through something. But think about something even more basic, something we use every single day.
All right, I'm stumped. Give me a hint.
Think about breakfast and what needs to be cracked open before you can scramble it.
Oh, an egg. Of course. You have to break the shell to get to the good stuff inside.
Exactly. This riddle plays on our usual idea of use. We usually think of the whole object, but this riddle makes us think about the potential use hidden inside.
That's a clever way to put it. Makes you realize that even the most basic things can have hidden potential. Okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. What am I? I'm tall when I'm young, and I'm short when I'm old. This one makes me think of things that change over time. Could it be a skyscraper slowly sinking into the ground?
While some buildings do settle over time, they don't really shrink the way the riddle is suggesting. Think about something that diminishes as it's used.
Okay, let me see. Could it be a roll of toilet paper? Starts off all tall and proud, but gets shorter and shorter with every use.
That's a hilarious image, and you're definitely thinking along the right lines. But this riddle is looking for something a bit more illuminating.
Illuminating. Okay, I think I've got it. It must be a candle. It stands tall when it's new and gets shorter as it burns.
You nailed it. This riddle plays with our natural idea of height as an indicator of age. We see something tall, we assume it's young. Something short, we think it's old. But with a candle, that whole relationship is reversed.
Fascinating. It makes you realize how our brains just, automatically make these associations. Okay, I'm ready for another one. What month of the year has 28 days? So this one seems easy. It's got to be February, right?
Well, February is famous for its 28 days, and sometimes 29, of course. But this riddle has a little trick up its sleeve.
Wait a minute. Is it all of them? Every month has at least 28 days.
You got it. This is a classic example of a riddle that plays on our assumptions. We jump to the most obvious answer and forget that all 12 months fit the criteria. It really shows how important it is to read carefully and consider every possibility.
That's a good one. I can see how that would catch people off guard. Okay, on to the next brain teaser. What is full of holes but can still hold water? Let's see. Could it be my memory after a long day? Full of holes, but somehow still holding on to some important bits.
That's a very relatable image, but this riddle's looking for something a bit more tangible. Think about objects that are actually designed to interact with water.
Okay, then what about a fishing net? Full of holes, but can still hold water, and hopefully some fish.
You're getting closer. You're thinking about the holes and their function, but think about something designed to absorb water rather than just contain it.
Of course, a sponge, full of holes, but its porous structure lets it soak up and hold water.
That's right. It's a great example of how even a simple object can have a really clever scientific principle behind it.
Okay, are you ready for another challenge?
Bring it on. Feeling confident now.
All right, here we go. What gets wet while drying? This one is making me think about things that absorb moisture. Could it be a thirsty dog after a bath? While I'm sure a thirsty dog would love a good soak, this riddle's looking for something a bit more specific. Think about what we use to dry things.
And consider what happens to that object as it absorbs the moisture.
A towel. It gets wet as it dries everything else.
You nailed it. This riddle plays on our perspective. We're usually focused on the thing being dried, not the thing doing the drying.
That's true. It's a good reminder to appreciate the unsung heroes of everyday life, like the humble towel, sacrificing its dryness for the sake of everything else. Okay, what's next?
That's a great point. We do take those simple objects for granted, but there's a lot of clever design and science behind them. Speaking of clever design, this next riddle really makes you think about functionality. What has hands but can't clap? Now, this makes me think about things that, resemble hands but aren't actually used for clapping. Could it be a pair of tongs? They have those hands that grip, but they don't clap.
That's a good guess. Tongs definitely have that hand-like function.
Yeah.
But think about something where the hands are always moving, but not in a way that would let them clap.
And consider what those hands might be indicating or measuring.
Okay, I think I've got it. It's a clock. The hands tell the time, but they'll never clap together.
Spot on. This riddle plays with the different meanings of hands, making us think beyond our own bodies. You know, it makes us think about objects that have hands with specific purposes.
That's a clever one.
Yeah.
It makes you realize how language can be so precise and playful all at the same time. Okay, bring on the next challenge.
All right, here we go. You see a boat filled with people, yet there isn't a single person on board. How is that possible? This one's a bit tricky. Could it be a boat full of mannequins all dressed up as sailors?
While mannequins can definitely create a convincing illusion, this riddle relies on a more subtle wordplay. Think about how we use the word person in different contexts.
And consider what social construct might change how we refer to the individuals on board.
I've got it. All the people on board are married, so there isn't a single person, but rather multiple couples.
Exactly. This riddle really highlights how language can be both precise and ambiguous. It makes us pay attention to those little nuances of words and how we can interpret them in different ways.
That's a great example of how a simple riddle can make you think about language in a whole new way. Okay, what's next? I'm ready for another one.
Here's a riddle that plays on our expectations. What can you catch but not throw? Could it be a cold? You can catch a cold, but you can't really throw it at someone, can you?
You got it. This riddle cleverly uses catch in two different senses. Usually we think of catch as a physical action, but we also use it to describe, getting sick.
It's a great example of how riddles can point out the multiple meanings of words and how those meanings can shift depending on the context. Okay, you ready for another one?
Absolutely. Hit me with your best shot.
All right, here we go. What has many keys but can't open a single lock? Now, this makes me think about things that have keys, but not the kind that unlock doors. Could it be a keyboard? It has tons of keys, but you can't use them to open any physical locks.
That's a good guess. You're definitely thinking outside the box. But this riddle's leading us in a slightly different direction. Think about where you might hear some beautiful sounds created using keys.
And consider what type of keys are used to make those sounds.
Ooh, I know. A piano. It has keys that create music, not open doors.
Exactly. This is a classic example of a riddle that plays on the double meaning of key, reminding us that a single word can have very different meanings depending on the context.
That's true. It makes you realize how important context is for understanding language. Okay, what's next?
All right, this one's a bit of a spatial challenge. What kind of room has no doors or windows? Could it be a virtual reality room?
While virtual reality can create those immersive room-like experiences, this riddle is looking for something a bit more natural. Think about spaces that we find in nature.
And consider what might provide shelter or enclosure without needing traditional doors or windows.
I think I've got it. A mushroom. It's like a tiny little room with no doors or windows.
You nailed it. This riddle challenges our typical idea of what a room is, making us think about enclosed spaces out in the natural world. It's a fun way to look at familiar things with a fresh perspective. Okay, ready for another one?
Bring it on. I'm loving these riddles.
Here's one that's sure to make you smile. What did the 0 say to the 8? Let me think. You're looking quite round today.
It's a funny image, but this riddle relies on a visual pun. Think about the shapes of the numbers themselves.
And consider what the 0 might see when looking at the 8.
Nice belt. Because the 8 looks like a 0 with a belt around its middle.
You got it. This riddle uses visual humor to make us see numbers in a whole new way. It's a great example of how riddles can combine wordplay with visual elements. Okay, ready for another challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on a roll now.
All right, here we go. I'm orange, I wear a green hat, and I sound like a parrot. What am I? Okay, this one is making me think about all things orange. Could it be a traffic cone all dressed up for a party?
While a party-ready traffic cone is a hilarious image, this riddle is looking for something a bit more natural. Think about what grows and has that distinct orange color.
And consider what part of that object might look like a green hat.
Of course, it's a carrot. Carrot sounds a bit like parrot if you say it in a funny way, and that leafy green top is like a hat.
You're on fire. This riddle combines sound and visual clues, making it a multi-sensory puzzle. Okay, ready for another brain teaser?
Bring it on. My brain is feeling nice and sharp.
Here we go. Why did the bicycle fall over? Could it be? Because it was trying to ride up a hill without training wheels.
While a lack of training wheels can definitely make for a wobbly ride, this riddle has a more playful answer. Think about the word tired and its different meanings.
And consider how that word might relate to the state of a bicycle.
Because it was too tired. Get it? Tired, like having no energy.
You nailed it. This riddle uses a classic pun, playing on the two meanings of tired to create that humorous effect.
I love how riddles can make you laugh and think at the same time. Okay, what's next?
This one has a nautical theme. Where would you take a sick boat? Could it be? To a boat spa for some much-needed relaxation.
While a boat spa sounds lovely, this riddle has a more practical solution. Think about where boats go for repairs and maintenance.
And consider where boats might be kept when they're not in use.
To the dock, of course.
Exactly. This riddle uses simple logic to guide us to the answer. Okay, ready for another one?
Absolutely. I'm ready to dive back in.
All right, here's one that plays with emotions. What fruit can you never cheer up? Let's see. A grapefruit. Because they're always so bitter.
While grapefruits can be a bit tart, this riddle focuses on the color of the fruit and its associated emotions. Think about what blue can represent beyond just a color.
And consider which fruit kind of embodies that blue feeling.
A blueberry. Because it's always blue, and blue can mean sad.
You got it. This riddle combines color symbolism with wordplay, making us think about the emotional side of words. Okay, ready for a postal challenge?
Bring it on. Feeling like a riddle-solving machine.
All right, here we go. What starts with P and ends with E and has thousands of letters? Could it be? A pile of alphabet magnets scattered across the floor.
While alphabet magnets are full of letters, this riddle is taking us to a place where letters are front and center. Think about where letters are sent and received.
And consider the building associated with that service.
The post office. It starts with a P, ends with an E, and is full of letters people send and receive.
Exactly. This riddle plays on the different meanings of letters, referring to both the alphabet and written correspondence. It's a clever way to make us think about the different ways we use language. Okay, are you ready for a technological twist?
Absolutely. Bring on the tech talk.
All right, here's a digital dilemma. Why did the computer go to the doctor? Could it be because it was suffering from a severe case of pop-up ads?
While pop-up ads can be incredibly annoying, this riddle is looking for something that can affect both humans and computers in a negative way. Think about the language we use to describe those issues.
And consider what might cause a computer to, malfunction or behave erratically.
Because it had a virus. Like a computer virus.
Spot on. This riddle makes a clever connection between biological and technological systems. It makes us think about the similarities between, living things and machines and how they can both be vulnerable to viruses.
I love how these riddles can find connections between things that seem totally unrelated. It's fascinating. Okay, what's next?
This one might make you think about nature. What has ears but cannot hear? Now, this makes me think about things that, resemble ears but aren't actually used for hearing. Could it be a pair of headphones just sitting on a table?
While headphones do have those ears that cover our own ears, this riddle is looking for something found in the natural world. Think about what grows in abundance and has distinct shapes that might remind us of ears.
And consider what we might harvest from those ears.
A cornfield. The ears of corn look like, ears, but they can't hear a thing.
That's right. This riddle uses visual imagery to playfully connect a plant with a body part. Okay, ready for one that's a bit more reflective?
Bring it on. I'm up for the challenge.
All right, here we go. If you drop me, I'll crack, but if you smile at me, I'll smile back. What am I? Could it be? A cookie with a little smiley face drawn on it.
While a decorated cookie is both fragile and cheerful, this riddle is pointing us towards something that reflects an image. Think about what happens when you smile at a reflective surface.
And consider what might break if it were dropped.
A mirror. It will crack if dropped and reflects a smile right back at you.
Exactly. This riddle mixes physical qualities with a bit of emotional interaction, which makes it both clever and engaging. Okay, ready for another one?
Bring it on. I'm eager to see what you've got.
All right, here we go. What has one eye but can't see? Could it be? A cyclops who forgot to put in his contact lens.
While a cyclops with vision problems is a humorous image, this riddle has a more down-to-earth solution. Think about objects with a single small hole that could be described as an eye.
And think about what that hole is used for and why it wouldn't be for seeing.
A needle. It has that tiny hole at one end, but it's for threading, not seeing.
You got it. This riddle, like many others, plays on the fact that words can have multiple meanings. In this case, the word I takes on a totally different meaning based on what we're talking about.
That's true. It's amazing how riddles can really make you pay attention to all those nuances of language.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
All right, this one needs some spatial thinking. What runs all around a backyard, yet never moves? This one is making me think about boundaries. Could it be an invisible fence for a dog? It keeps the dog contained, but you can't actually see it.
While an invisible fence does create a boundary, this riddle wants something a bit more tangible. Think about what physically encloses a backyard.
And consider how that enclosure, even though it's stationary, still runs around the whole space.
A fence. It encloses the backyard, but never moves from its spot.
You nailed it. This riddle plays with how we think about movement and stillness. Even though a fence doesn't physically move, we still say it runs around the backyard.
That's a great observation. It makes you realize how descriptive language can be, even when we're talking about something that's not moving at all. Okay, what's next?
Here's one that might make you chuckle. What begins with T, ends with T, and has T in it? Let me see. Is it a turtle wearing a tiny tutu?
While a turtle in a tutu is a delightful image, this riddle has a much simpler answer. Think about common words that start and end with T, but also have T in the middle.
And consider what you might find in your kitchen cupboard, used for serving a hot beverage.
A teapot starts with T, ends with T, and has T right in the middle.
You got it. This riddle relies on a simple wordplay structure, which makes it fun and satisfying to solve. Okay, ready for a geographical challenge?
Bring it on. I'm feeling adventurous.
All right, here we go. I have cities, but no houses, forests, but no trees, and rivers, but no water. What am I? Could it be a city planner's dream journal? Filled with ideas, but not real places yet.
While a dream journal can be a place for imaginative landscapes, this riddle is going for something more real, something that represents the world, but in a simple form. Think about how we visualize places and geography.
And consider what lets us explore different places without actually traveling there.
A map. It shows cities, forests, and rivers, but only as representations, not the real thing.
Exactly. This riddle really highlights the power of representation and how we can make things abstract. A map helps us understand the complexities of the world in a simple, visual way.
That's a fascinating way to look at it. It makes you appreciate how maps can be both informative and beautiful. Okay, what's next?
Here's a riddle that might make you think a bit differently. What gets bigger when more is taken away? Could it be a debt after you miss a payment? Because the interest keeps growing.
While debt can definitely feel like it's growing even when you try to pay it off, this riddle is looking for a more tangible answer. Think about physical actions that involve removing something.
And consider what happens to the space left behind when you take away more and more.
A hole. The more you dig out, the bigger the hole gets.
You nailed it. This riddle points out a simple concept with a deeper meaning. Sometimes removing something can actually lead to growth or expansion. It reminds us that progress isn't always about adding more, but sometimes about letting go of what we no longer need.
That's a thought-provoking takeaway. It makes you realize that sometimes less is more. Okay, what's next? I'm ready for another brain teaser.
All right, here's the last one for this part of our deep dive. I have no wings, but I can fly. I have no eyes, but I can cry. What am I? Let's see. A hot air balloon that's sprung a leak.
While a leaky hot air balloon is a vivid image, this riddle is pointing us towards something we find in nature. Think about things that can move through the air without wings.
And consider what cry could represent, besides just shedding tears.
A cloud. It floats through the air and releases rain, which you could say is like crying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully poetic riddle that connects natural events with human emotions. It reminds us that even things without life can be seen as having feelings and expressing themselves.
I love how these riddles can be both clever and thought-provoking. It's amazing how much we've learned about language, logic, and even a bit of science along the way.
I agree. It just goes to show that learning can be fun and engaging, especially when we add a touch of mystery and wordplay.
More brain-bending fun in the next and final part of our episode.
Until then, keep those minds sharp and those imaginations soaring.
Welcome back, Riddle fans, to the final part of our Riddle extravaganza. I hope you've all had a chance to stretch those brain muscles. Are you ready for a few more?
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready for some more brain-tickling challenges.
Oh.
I love how these simple puzzles can make us think in such creative ways. They really do. Okay, let's jump right into it. What has to be broken before you can eat it? This one was making me think about things that, like, have shells or hard coverings. Could it be a coconut? You have to crack that tough shell open before you get to the good stuff inside.
That's a great guess. Coconuts are definitely tough to crack open. But think about something that we break open pretty much every day. Something smaller and maybe a bit messier.
Oh, an egg. You have to crack the shell before you can enjoy the yolk and the white.
Exactly. It's such a simple riddle, but it uses that everyday action of cracking an egg to point to a bigger idea. Sometimes you have to break through barriers to get to the truly valuable stuff.
That's a great point. It's kind of like a metaphor for life, you know?
Ooh.
Sometimes you need to break out of your comfort zone or face a challenge head on to really reach your full potential. Okay, you ready for the next one? Hit me.
All right, here's one that plays with how we think about traveling. What has no legs but can travel the world? This one makes me think about things that are shared and spread easily. Could it be a secret, whispered from one person to another? It can travel far and wide without anyone actually moving.
That's a really clever thought. Secrets do have a way of traveling fast. But this riddle's looking for something a little more organized. Something that carries information and ideas across distances and time. Think about how we share and preserve knowledge.
And what about the things people have used for ages to pass down stories and traditions?
A story. It can be told and retold, passed down from generation to generation, and travel the world without ever needing legs.
That's a beautiful answer. Stories really are incredible. They carry knowledge, culture, and human connection. They can transport us to other worlds, teach us valuable lessons, and connect us to people across time and space, and all without ever taking a single step.
It's amazing how riddles can make us appreciate the simple things in life, like the power of a good story. What's next? I'm ready for another one.
All right, this one might make you look around your room. What has one head, 1 foot, and 4 legs? This is making me picture things. Could it be a teddy bear perched on a stool?
That's a cute image. But this riddle has a much more practical answer. Something we use every single day. Think about everyday objects and the words we use to describe them.
Think about what we use for sleep or rest and how those objects are put together.
A bed. It has a headboard, a footboard, and 4 legs.
That's right. It's funny how we often use body parts to describe parts of objects. It makes you see familiar things in a whole new way. Okay, ready for another challenge?
Bring it on. I'm feeling like a riddle master.
Here we go. What has no voice but can still tell you to stop? Now, this one has me thinking about instructions. Could it be a red traffic light? It tells you when to stop your car without making a sound?
That's a good one. Traffic lights definitely control our movements. But this riddle wants something even simpler, something that just uses its shape and color to send a message. Think about what you see on roads and sidewalks that tells you to pause.
And what about things that are used to mark boundaries or set limits no matter where you are?
A stop sign. It doesn't have a voice, but its shape and that bright red color tell you to stop, loud and clear.
Exactly. This riddle shows how powerful symbols and nonverbal communication can be. Sometimes a simple shape or color can speak volumes.
That's true. It really shows how communication goes beyond just spoken or written words. What else do you have?
All right, here's one that plays with words. What has an answer, but no question? Could be one of those magic 8 balls. It gives you an answer, even though you haven't really asked it a specific question.
That's a creative thought. Magic 8 balls are full of mysterious answers. But this riddle is looking for something a bit more everyday. Think about the sounds we hear that automatically make us do something.
And what do those sounds usually mean without needing any words?
A doorbell. You hear the doorbell and you know someone's at the door without them having to say a word.
You nailed it. This riddle shows how sounds can be a form of communication all on their own, making us react and understand things instantly. It makes you think about all the different ways we experience the world around us. Okay, ready for one last riddle?
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
This one's a classic. What can go up a chimney down, but can't go down a chimney up? This one makes me think about things that change shape. Could it be a balloon? You could let the air out to squeeze it down a chimney, but you couldn't fit a full balloon back up.
You're on the right track. Balloons definitely change shape. But this riddle's looking for something a bit more specific. Think about what we use to stay dry on a rainy day.
And what might happen to that object if you tried to open or close it inside a tight space like a chimney?
An umbrella. You can close it to go down a chimney, but if it was open, you'd never get it back up.
You got it. This riddle combines spatial thinking with a bit of everyday knowledge. It makes you think about how objects work and how they interact with the world around them.
Well, folks, That brings us to the end of our riddle journey. It's been a blast putting our minds to the test and uncovering all the twists and turns these riddles had to offer.
Absolutely. It's amazing how these seemingly simple puzzles can spark so much creativity, curiosity, and laughter.
I hope you've enjoyed listening to our riddle deep dive and maybe even learned a thing or two about language, logic, and the joy of playing with words.
And remember, keep those minds sharp and never stop exploring the world with curiosity.
Until next time, happy riddling.